Hi Neurospices, welcome to Late Diagnosed. A little over 12 months ago, I was diagnosed with ADHD and autism. And the journey to uncover exactly what that meant for me, to understand unmasking, to understand all of the different terms that I'd never heard prior to being diagnosed and prior to investigating further what I understood just to be procrastination at the time, has been a journey. Take a look. Hi guys, I'm Michelle and I am going to be speaking about my reason. And it's hard. It's really hard. It's harder than I expected it to be. Five things that I experience. First one is stomach issues. When I was 13, I had an episode where I fainted.
This is what happens when you've got ADHD. You keep forgetting to get your car washed. So
Vino begins whilst the oven timer is ticking. Yum. Because if they were to support someone who just works differently, the output in productivity is far greater than they would ever expect. I'm going to clean. And because you're here, I'm going to do it much quicker because there's not going to be any doom scrolling in between. Let's go. I was diagnosed last year when I was 54. I had been researching after watching a video at work of a colleague who was talking about their diagnosis, and I was suddenly going, hang on a second, wow, that sounds like me. Now, it wasn't until I actually turned up on the day, so there was some preliminary testing that I needed to do, so there was some online questionnaires, pretty full on, like loads and loads of questions that seemed unrelated, but you know, they wanted to know about your background, you know, what things were like when you were a kid, just trying to establish, I guess, because it's not something that happens later in life, it's something that's there your whole life, but you've learned how to cope with it, or possibly you haven't. And maybe that's the reason why you're trying to get the diagnosis. I went in for the face-to-face and was then told that we would actually also be testing for autism, which I just thought was, well, that's stupid. I don't have autism. I'm here for ADHD, but I figured, oh, look, I'm here. It doesn't cost me any more, because that was sort of my concern at that point. Then had all the testing done. I got the report back. Now, when I first read the report, because I was already expecting to be ADHD, you know, the preliminary testing that I'd done really showed that I had ADHD inattentive type. And so I expected to read on the report that that would be the case. What I didn't expect to read was that I was showing high masking and had a lot of traits of autism too. The first time I read it, I actually read it wrong, and I read it to say that I didn't have autism. And I actually shared with a couple of colleagues how relieved I was that I didn't have autism. On reflection, you know, when I think back at that now, because ADHD was kind of like, oh, well, you know, it's just a behavioural thing and I can, you know, get some meds to help me focus, things like that. And yes, that's the case. And I do have meds and they do help me focus. But I think in my mind, what I was really doing at that stage was I had a greater understanding of the discrimination against those with autism or those who are on the spectrum. And when you already know that, of course you don't want to be put into that box. You don't want to have something that you already know people discriminate against. So I was relieved. Only had ADHD, no props. But then I went back and I actually read the report, and I read it thoroughly this time instead of skimming it. And I was shocked actually to learn that I also had autism, but actually also relieved. And there was a period of time where I think I just kind of accepted it without really thinking more deeply about, what had brought me to that point more than anything, but also what it would mean now moving forward. What I remember as a child is being quite outgoing, being very creative. I started learning piano at age 7, and I really did enjoy being creative, and Dad always encouraged us to make things and, be outside and do things. We had a cubby, we had a trampoline, we had lots of friends in the street that we used to play with. So, there was no indications from what we knew back then that there was anything different. However, I was not tidy. My sister was. So I found ways, I guess, to not get in trouble. So I would throw things under my bed, for example. There were lots of little things looking back that now I know what I know were certainly indicators, but they couldn't ever have been indicators to anybody outside of me, because no one knew what the differences meant. It was all just very much assumed that either I was lazy or distracted. So I was an outgoing kid. I went through school, primary school, and then high school. And in high school, I got out of doing all of the homework whenever I could. Didn't like homework. And whenever there was a project that I actually really enjoyed, then I would get into it and do loads and loads of work on it. In fact, I remember in history, I really was not a fan of history, and my teacher, I think, was probably going to fail me. But then we started studying ancient Egypt, and that was something that piqued my interest. So the project that was supposed to be 4 pages long, I ended up submitting a 12-page report or project, and I do believe that my teacher passed me based on that, probably because she was in shock that I'd actually submitted anything, given my history of not submitting anything. So got through high school, and then what was I going to do from there? So I was allowed by my parents to leave in year 10, thankfully. I don't think I could have stood another 2 years. The things that I guess I found most difficult always related to what I saw as a failure of my ability to keep a clean house, to and procrastinate. I tend to do that a lot. And then other ways where I just felt like I didn't fit. And I never could really put my finger on why. I just knew that I felt differently to most people, or maybe I thought that they experienced it the way that I did, but were able to cope with it. So that constant tape playing in your head that is just this negative spiral of all of your failures, I just figured everyone else had the same thing, but they either didn't listen to it or were stronger than me, or whatever it was, and I absolutely internalized it. One of the first times that I found someone that I thought I could relate to was the first time I watched Gilmore Girls. And Lorelai and the way she talks, I'm like, yep, yeah, and other people would be like, oh my goodness, she's, talking so fast and all of that. Wow, that's just... I'm like, yeah, it's normal. Isn't that what everyone else experiences? So that to me was a real, even then, I still didn't know that other people didn't experience that. I just thought, yep, that's how it happens in my head. That's the constant talk. So it was really cool to finally have someone, on the TV screens that I could relate to, that, spoke like I did. And certainly how I did in my head too. And when I got excited about things, I would speak faster as well. I was often told across a range of different things to slow down. And I don't know why I used to do things fast. In work, I would try and rush through things. I really don't understand why I did that. I might have to do a deep dive on that one. Perhaps you could comment and let me know why you think that is. Do you do that yourself? I don't know. But anyway, so that's kind of, the early years. And when I became a mum, it to me was something that I had always aspired to be, was to be a mother, and I knew that I would be good at that. And in fact, I've said many, many times over the years that the one thing that I knew that I would be good at would be a mother. I hope my sons still say it. They do. It's been a bit of a journey, as you can see. I've learnt a lot since my diagnosis. I started my YouTube channel so that I could share my journey, what it means for me learning how to live life on the spectrum this side of my diagnosis. I've learnt a lot. It's been a real steep learning curve, and I'm still learning. If you've seen any of my previous videos, you'll know the ups and downs that I've been through, and that it's not all, happy days, bells, whistles, all the rest of that. And, you're not going to expect that it's going to be either after such a big diagnosis, effectively. I've learnt a lot, and I'm still learning, and I expect that I'm still going to be learning this time next year as well. So I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for following along. Thank you for inspiring me to keep going just by being kind. Thank you for letting me know your thoughts, letting me know your own experiences. It helps me feel less alone too. It's not the easiest diagnosis, but the main thing for me is that it helped me to understand myself better and understand that I'm not broken, that there is a reason that I am the way that I am, and there's nothing wrong with who I am. It's a really good thing to understand myself a lot better and to accommodate that. So instead of trying to fit into a neurotypical world, I'm now working out how to live life authentically and just be me and let it fall where it falls. If people don't like me, they don't like me. I actually don't care whether they do or not, because the people that I have in my world do care about me, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. I hope you're well. Stay safe. Catch you in the next one.